guys. How you doing?
Hello, hello.
Hey, Bob. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I enjoyed the intro. I enjoyed it. It was
Yeah,
kind
like
of a little nice beat to it. It was nice. I
a
liked it.
little jingle there.
Yeah.
All right, BB did a good job. Awesome. All right. Well, hope you guys are doing good tonight. I'm going to go ahead and say hello to everyone and thank you all so much for being here. We welcome you to Let's Talk About It Live, and we welcome you to the Chatterbox. And as you socialize with each other in the Chatterbox, we, the creators of Let's Talk About It Live, challenge you to rise by lifting others and spreading kindness. So, with that, I'm Theresa with Meant to Be RVing, and over here,
I'm Beyond Beauty 3, also known as BB. And I have a little message from Nettie. Well, regarding Nettie, because if you notice, she's not here with us tonight. But Nettie has made the decision to take a break from Let's Talk About It Live. Her schedule in life is changing, and we just did a show on change last week. And she's changing, and she has to be a bit more particular about what she has in her schedule right now. So she wishes us all the best, and she's supporting us along the way.
yes, thank you, Pete. That's really good. And thank you, Nettie. And we're definitely going to miss Nettie being here and part of us, ladies. I know that. Definitely going to miss you. Bob.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, everybody pretty much knows who's here with us so far tonight, knows Bob with Bob Adventures on Wheels. And he's here to share with us the topic on suicide prevention, which he's really familiar with and talks a lot about on his show. But I think, BB, before we get started in that, maybe we should say hello to the individuals that are with us here tonight in the chat.
Yeah, let me get over here and get up here to the top. We have Van Life with Gina Payne. We have Cindy Wheeler, Thrifty Angela. We have Shanna Craft, Tommy Travels. We have Happy Place Camping, Nomadic Hippie, Nursing Our Travel Bug, Van Life Rocks, Fordman, aka Kenneth Oakes, Linda R. And I think that's it for the moment. Welcome, everybody.
I think you're right. You got them all. Well, good. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone being here and just participating with us tonight as we talk on this subject. Because as you know, it's September. I mean, we're getting cooler temperatures. You know, I think everywhere all over the country, people are going to start experiencing some cooler temperatures. How about over there where you are, Bob? I know you're suffering from some of the smoke and stuff going on there.
Oh yeah, the smoke's still here. Hopefully here in the next couple of days it's supposed to dissipate, which will be really nice. So I can get back outside and walk again. But yeah, it's gonna be getting cooler here as well. At least I hope in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
I hope so too.
This is totally off subject, but not really. Okay, so it's about the location you and Gina are in.
Yeah.
I have not watched Alaskan Bush People in a very long time. But recently I found out about them again and started watching and realized they're on a mountain right out there, like in the middle of the fire. The fire is surrounding the mountain of Alaskan Bush People. I don't know if anyone else out there knows about this crazy family. But they've been a sensation for a long time. They live in the wild and they're raised like wolves, basically.
Wow.
The whole family. Do you know who I'm talking about, Bob?
I'm gonna have to look them up though. That sounds like it's a very interesting show.
Yes, they live off the land, and they for a long time lived in Alaska, but they now live in the mountains in Washington, and they're in the midst of the fire, which was crazy to find out. So, a little piece of knowledge there.
I'll have to look them up, and then once I have somebody to get to them, maybe I'll go out and interview them out in the bush, and I'll be like, BB3 sent me.
That would be a really good interview to see. They grew up in the woods with nothing, just the woods. They grew off the land, so it's pretty
Wow.
cool.
Yeah, I
Wow.
watched all the Elastica episodes, but I haven't seen them being over there yet. So yeah, that
Yeah,
would be really interesting.
they have a whole ranch and everything out on the mountain. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
Get
Wow.
that interview,
That
Bob.
does sound cool.
Get that interview.
I'll try. I'll try. I'm doing a lot of them, so I'll try.
There you go. So that kind of brings us right back to September. I said the coolness, but also it's National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month. So, and I think with everything that's going on, this has been a really crazy year. I mean, it's September and we're still going through this epidemic phase of things going on. So, even though it is September, you think with how long this has been going on and how it's still affecting, we don't know when it's going to end. What better of a topic to kind of talk about and be there, to support people and make them probably a little aware of some of the signs of it and the suicide prevention hotline that's down there. So, getting that out to everybody. Because statistically, I was looking that it even affects children as young as 10 years old, and that just breaks my heart.
I was watching something the other day, and they said 9 and 8-year-olds are now thinking along those lines. Typically, they don't do anything until they're about 10, but 9 and 8 is when they're starting to think along those lines now. I'm like, at 9 or 8, I was thinking about Barbies.
Right?
And Santa. I just can't. And I had a rough childhood, but I didn't even know anything about.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just I don't know, but I do want to say that that evidence does show that providing support and talking about suicide um, does um, does help. So getting that awareness out there, and some of the things that we can do too is like reduce access, like to firearms, and follow up with loved ones. Just let them know that you're there and that you care, and help recognize some of the signs of it. So. But we'd also like tonight. Bob has lots of stories. I think of you know situations that he's come to that are really close to his heart with loved ones and friends, and they're hard. When you know someone that close to you who's um, battled either with mental illness or just depression. I mean, depression itself, it just really takes a toll on you. So,
Yeah.
um,
And when you were talking about, there's when in high school, um,
oh,
and I can't imagine for kids that are in high school out there not being able to go and have a graduation, graduation ceremony and all that stuff after going through high school, um, and dealing with all that, and then dealing with being away from friends and all that kind of stuff right now. And it's really difficult to do, and so I think and one of the things that's really important is to let your kids still have social contact somehow. So even if it's something like video games where they can talk to their friends right now, and not be around them, that's really important. Just having that communication. But 9 or 10 years old, when you're talking about that, I was already dealing with that. My uncle committed suicide when I was about 10 years old, and it was a couple of days before Christmas, or I think it was before Christmas or after Christmas. One of those two was around then. And also, I watched my mother attempt suicide a few times, and visited her in the mental hospital. And so I dealt with that side of it, and because of dealing with that when I was a kid, I tried so hard when I got older to say that's not happening to me, and because it was the last thing that I thought I would ever do, and it seemed like life just kept give me one punch after another punch of things happening up until the point where my, body quit working, and
Oh, wow.
all the stuff that had happened health wise, it was almost like the last straw on the camel's back. And in that moment, I didn't care anymore, because I was like, all this stuff happened to me, and I kept going and I kept going, and now here is this moment, and it was like it was too much. And so even if you think you're somebody out there that you would never think of doing that or never have the moment, I think anybody can have that moment, at any point. And then after that, I got therapy and got help and all that kind of stuff, uh, to help me recognize that, and actually and process all the emotions from being younger, and dealing with all that stuff, to make me, um, able to realize what's going on, and able to, have the tools to deal with it, and process emotions as they come up. And it's stuff like that they never teach you in school, or, also, especially as male, you're really taught not to, show emotions at all. And so that gets stuff down, and that's why, there's a really high male suicide rate too. And that it's not, and usually it's, successful as well, because, it's in those moments like what I had, where it was just, that's it, it's too much, I can't do it anymore. Um, but you can recognize it in people just by seeing them, pull away, if they're, if they avoid, people altogether, and don't want to talk to anybody. It's kind of important to reach out, especially if you have friends that are doing that. All of a sudden, you notice they're just quiet and they don't talk to anybody anymore. Reach out to them and talk to them, because you never know what's going on, and maybe you talking to them can change their mind. And I think, they might not even talk about that, but you call it. Maybe they were thinking, hey, nobody really cares about me, and you happen to call at that moment, and it changes their mind. Yeah, like if he says here, uh, yep.
Yeah, sometimes you're going to have people that are showing all the signs of depression, and then you're going to have other people who are over funny and comedic and the class clown, and you can't tell that anything's wrong.
Because they're trying really hard to cover it up, those emotions. And
I have a question for you, Bob.
Mhm.
In that moment, in that worst moment for you, and afterwards when you sought help and started changing things for yourself, did you find power in that and strength in the fact that you were able to seek that help and start changing your life?
Um, it it's a long process to to um, to be glad that I did, just because I had such issues, with seeing, my mother dealing with, therapists and all that kind of stuff, and I had dealt with them when I was younger. So it took me a little while to realize that it was stronger to ask for help, and get the help, than it was to suffer in silence. And a lot of that had to do with, listening to local radio DJ hosts who, I'm going to have on my show, VJ Shea, but he's been on the radio forever. But he talked about getting therapy and how it made him a better person, and a better man, and just better altogether, when he was just had such anger issues and all that kind of stuff. And I identified with that so much. And I went through years of medicating with alcohol, and got into fights and all that kind of stuff, because of having those anger issues. So once I could recognize myself in somebody else, and that's why anybody, if you talk about your issues, it's hard to do. Um, and I'm sorry to hear that, Jenica. Um, it's hard to do to talk about your feelings and stuff that's happened, but somebody else out there might identify themselves in you and therefore be able to uh, maybe find a way to better themselves. And I've talked to lots of people now, and I'm very happy about that. And I wouldn't have got the chance to do that um, had I not been around anymore. And so one of the big things I tell people, and when I talk to these people that are living their dreams and they're going out there and doing it, is how bad as it is right now. Maybe that's the last part of act number two of your story. And if you stop right there, you're ripping act three out of the book. That who knows what the ending was going to be in that book, and you threw it away. And so this happening and what's going on right now for me, I'm super happy, but I'm super happy that hopefully somebody else out there goes, hey, you know, maybe yeah, it's really bad right now, but maybe I can find a way to do what I want to do. And so that's why I enjoy doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. And I think through it all, you grow. Because I've watched you grow, and even Bob, you at the beginning, I remember your show that you did early on in your YouTube, where you did your suicide prevention, kind of like the radio style with
Mhm.
it on that one show, and that was really good. Definitely, you should definitely continue doing stuff like that because I really think that you're onto something there, and just being there for somebody else and having your story, I think someone would be more comfortable in talking with you
Yeah,
because you've been there.
yeah,
You know what it's like from both ends because dealing with someone who also has that tendency who may still harm themselves, but you're there to work through it with them, and that's just so important.
yeah.
That somebody finds someone to do that, and I
Right.
think they're,
Oh, so many stories over here.
it's
The
it,
stories over here in the chat are breaking my heart.
Mhm.
Lily had a friend that came and visited her, and then 2 weeks later, Van Life with Gina is talking about depression and what it feels like when you are down. It feels like you can't climb out, which is very true.
Yeah.
Then we have Thrifty Angela, her sister in law, and her nieces were only 17 and 13 at the time.
and Shanna Craft with her best friend and coworker, and when she was 17 or 18, committed suicide. Then she lost her father the following year. So my goodness, so many stories out there, and so
Mhm.
many people gone to in such a sad and tragic way. And I think if we bring awareness to it, learn how to reach out, be a listening ear, and just be aware of it, and know that at this time, especially with all that's going on, the holidays are coming,
Yeah.
um, which is a really critical time.
You know what's strange? Holidays are supposed to be merry and happy and joyful. And more people than not that I talk to, holidays just aren't that. The thought of a holiday brings upon stress and depression and scariness and anger. I remember my dad when I was a child, he would hear Christmas was coming and instantly he was just in a bad mood for the next month,
Mhm.
and it was because of his childhood when he was younger. And I hear that a lot from a lot of people. I don't know. It's just a common thing I hear.
Well, and I've said before, a lot of it is about feeling alone. So especially for people that don't have a family that they go hang out with, they don't
Mhm.
have all those friends. That time of year is really hard because you feel extra alone. That's what you see on TV. That's what you see. Everywhere you look is people having a good time, people enjoying the holidays with each other, and you're there alone. And then that just adds on to it.
Yeah.
And so, um, that's one of the big things. And then you feel alone in your pain that you feel, and you don't think anybody else in the world can understand you. And that's why, um, going back to, people sharing stuff like they're sharing in the chat right now, you know, it it makes somebody go, okay, I'm not alone. Somebody else has dealt with that, and they're getting through it, and it gives them, like you're saying, Theresa, somebody to talk to. Somebody to reach out and talk to. And I'm, besides the number there going across the screen, if you ever want to reach out and talk to me and say, hey, I'm having these feelings, I'm feeling down, I'm always there to listen and message with you and all that kind of stuff. So never feel alone like nobody else has been there before, because I can guarantee you, and I learned this more I talk to everybody that I talk to, there's somebody else out there that's went through what you're going through.
Yes.
There is. And I'll find you a story either that I've talked to somebody, or that I'll find one and I'll go talk to them, and you won't feel alone. So just at least give me a chance to go find them first.
Yeah, no one's going to judge you. People just want to be here, to provide, even if it's just a listening ear. If anything else, because there's so many people right now too, who are living single or living in just your little family groups and aren't able to reach out to your extended family.
Yep.
People who haven't been hugged in a while, just that emotional, support and comfort that's missing for so many, because of how we have to be social distancing. So that just adds to that depression and stuff. So I just want to know we're here. We'll do virtual hugs and just be that listening ear if anybody needs it. Definitely reach out.
And the great thing is they have therapy that you can do through text and all that kind of stuff. You don't even have to, you don't have to go into an office and talk to somebody. If you feel more comfortable, I mean, we're all on the internet, and so if you feel more comfortable putting it down in text and talking to somebody that way, that's the way to do it too. But just start talking to somebody, because once you do, just the act of talking to somebody can give your mind a chance to work out what's going on. And you can figure out what's going on and work through the issues. If you just hold it inside, it's not gonna end up well.
Yeah. Do you see Thrifty Angela's comment down there too?
Yep.
This is the first time in years I've talked about it. I feel like there's such a stigma about it, and I wish there wasn't. And then Hippie says, I have a lot of empathy for people that have deep, dark depression. I've never felt it. I actually can honestly say I don't know what depression actually feels like, but I do have empathy. And you know what? I suffer with severe depression, diagnosed, PTSD, and severe anxiety. Anxiety to the point where I start shaking uncontrollably. And I have always thought, man, it would be so nice to have my brain free for an hour. Give me an hour where my brain doesn't second guess myself or think I'm horrible or have any of the bad thoughts. Just give me an hour. It would be great. So on the opposite end of that, I really would like to feel a normal brain for once.
Jerry Hall came in and said he's going to be coming up on his first holiday, yes, without my best friend and wife of 40 years.
Gina said, I found my faith in God at my lowest moment. It was a flash before my eyes of my daughter, and it stopped what was doing, and walked into a hospital. It gets complicated. You don't want to validate the notion of suicide, but want to acknowledge the person's emotions. Then when you need the help of professionals at the hotline.
Yeah.
Oh boy. I haven't talked about this. I've never talked about this but I talked with Bob and Theresa before we came on just a moment, because it's hard to talk about. I had a not so great childhood that led to a not so great marriage. And in that marriage, I was made to feel like I should not exist. And already suffering with depression and anxiety and all of that, having someone stare at you for 3 hours straight and tell you you're a horrible mother and you shouldn't exist and blah, blah, blah. You don't want to exist anymore. And at that moment, I didn't want to exist anymore. So I tried to not exist anymore, and I had someone yelling, "Go ahead, do it. Can I help you?" And in that moment, I had to think about my kids and how to move forward and not leave them. And I don't know. This is why I asked Bob earlier if you found strength in that moment. And in that moment, that's where I found, I think, the strength in every decision I made after that. Because that was my absolute lowest point, and I wouldn't ever want to go back there. So I found strength there to move forward. So even when you're in your lowest of lows and you feel like you can't go any further, no matter who's around you, no matter who's saying what to you, you can always move forward. And I just want that to kind of be out there. Don't ever think, because that's the worst moment I ever had in my life. And I've been through a lot of bad things. So
Well, I'm glad that you didn't. I'm glad that you're here, and I love you, and I think everybody in the chat room loves you, and I know Theresa loves you, and so finding strength in that moment um, is one of the best things that could happen to you for sure, because um, it took me years after that to still get to where I could forget about all that stuff. So I'm happy that you got that strength in that moment to say, hey, it's more than me. It's about everything. It's about the kids. It's about everything. And so I'm proud of you, and I'm proud of you for sharing that. I really am.
I found strength to not go down the road that I was heading down. But I did reach out and find a counselor and a therapist and started going. And let me tell you, she was an older lady. She was about 80 years old, about to retire. And she was one of those ladies that looked at me and said, "Why do you think people care what you're wearing when you go to the store? Ain't nobody looking at you. Nobody cares. Why do you care what he thinks? He treats you like crap. Why do you care?" I mean, she was the grandma that told you how it was. And I give my life to her because she repaired me. She put me back together. So it was seeking help that really fixed it all. And having a no-nonsense person just really put me in my place.
I had a counselor tell me, she said, even if they are thinking about you, what you're thinking they're thinking, you can't do anything about it anyway. So why are you worried about it? And that was really like, okay, yeah, I guess you're right.
I want to read Tommy Travel's comment here. This is inspiring. He said, "I used to weigh 400 pounds. I cut myself off from everyone and was in a very dark and depressed place. It took a lot to get through it, and I still struggle with it at times." Tommy, you are amazing. You show so much kindness and so much love to everyone. I just think you're the most amazing individual. Seriously, Tommy. And hearing that makes me even more inspired by you.
And I don't know how you can't come out of some of the things, like your story and Bob's story. And I think so many of us do have those stories. And, you find strength, I think, sometimes. And like I said, just by you sharing your story, baby, and I know as hard as it was, with sharing that, and if others will too, if you're struggling right now, share that story, get it out there, put it on somebody's ears for a little while, let them hold the weight of it and hold you a little bit and walk you through it. sometimes you just need that other person to hold your hand and just get you through it.
Yeah.
Um,
You always want to try to be the strong one, and that's one of the things I had to learn in that. And then after that happened, one of the one of the things that you go through, at least I did, was how to get a network of friends and all that kind of stuff to call if there was ever going to be an issue. And then, after talking to them about that, they're like, "Hey, tell me, if you're ever thinking about that stuff, call me. What's your problem?" And so you find out stuff like that, and that starts to change the way you're thinking too. At least it did for me. So
Definitely.
Gina said, "Look at this chat. How many of us have felt these horrible feelings? And here we are now with each other to lift each other up and see each other through the storm."
yeah.
Yeah, I was the same way with I had to carry the weight of my entire family on my shoulders, plus my own little family on my shoulders, and I wasn't taking care of me. Wasn't taking the time to fix me. So when that happened and I started fixing me, then I just basically started over from the ground up. Like I started over with nobody and nothing and just rebuilt the life that I have now. And I'm thankful for every bit of it, even the worst of times, because it teaches you what you have inside you that you may not have known was there.
Definitely it does.
And it's kind of like if you look at it, and I told people this too. Um, had I not been here anymore, this is all extra time. So if you kind of look at it like that too, in an alternate timeline, you might not be here, and you wouldn't have. It definitely makes you appreciate what you have more.
Yeah.
When you realize that you couldn't have it at all.
But to me, that's where that story of hope comes in, and let other people know that there is hope.
Yep.
There is, through having suicidal tendencies and depression and stuff like that, there is hope. You can survive that, but sometimes you have to share that story. You have to reach out to people, talk to them about it, and get those positive people to be around, and don't listen to all the negativity, and because you're better than that. Each of us usually, we're not that negative voice sometimes that's feeding us.
I think that's a hard thing too sometimes. And maybe it was just my situation, but I grew up in a negative environment. I grew up with a lot of mental health around me and issues. And so for me, growing up from child on up, that was life. That was normal. That was the way things are supposed to be. The stuff you saw on TV was just movies. That's not real life. Somebody hits you, you keep that quiet because that's private business. That's not for everyone to know. So you're raised up being in that world. So you think that all that is all that exists. So you really don't get that there's better out there until you cross that line, until you find that strength. And people can tell you there is, but then you still question it. So I think it takes hearing maybe like this, like stories of people that have been in that thought there was nothing else, going, there is more, there's always going to be more. You just got to get out there and get it. Because I didn't believe that anything else existed, in all honesty.
And when you're depressed, you don't feel like you deserve it either.
Yeah.
So if you don't feel like you deserve something good, well, that's what you're attracting. That's something that isn't good, whether it's a person or whatever it is in life. That's what you're putting out there because you don't feel that you're worth it for yourself. And so it's a cycle that goes down. And one of the tools, I had to learn is you have to stop that cycle and give yourself a cycle of positive feedback.
That's right.
Just like how the negative, when you're depressed, it just goes in a cycle, and you start down that depression cycle. And anybody that's dealt with depression knows, it can start with just a little thing like spilling something, and then you're mad at yourself the whole rest of the day because of everything you've done.
And I think you see that people who are going into depression, like when they're sad, they'll start listening to sad music. When you're depressed, you start listening to depressed music, and you almost have to do that flip. You got to find that way to get the positive in from all of that negative. But that's some of the hardest thing to do is to make that flip.
Even taking a shower sometimes can just be like, I gotta get out of this bed. Are you kidding me? I don't
Yeah.
wanna. So, like, this is just me. I don't. Maybe I'll help someone. But when I have those worst of worst times where even taking a shower is a chore and I don't wanna, that's when I realize, okay, you're down deep. You're in the pits here. So I challenge myself to the stupidest, smallest challenge. I'll go, okay, you got a day. You got a day to lay here, wallow in your self pity, and then tomorrow get your butt up and take a shower. And then the next day, you're going to shower and you're going to vacuum the floor. And then the next day, you're going to shower, vacuum the floor, and wash the dishes. And my list just keeps getting bigger by one thing each day until I feel good again. Because if I overwhelm myself, then
Right.
I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to continue to lay in that bed and go, forget that list.
Right. But recognizing that too is important. Like the fact that you can recognize that, that's one of the keys to, eventually being where you have more and more good days and bad days is being able to have that recognition of yourself of hey, I'm feeling down. And then even a thing that helps, like if you can pinpoint why you're feeling down, cry over whatever you got to do, and then hop back to it. I've seen it, notice that's helped a lot as well for me anyway.
I saw Hippie's question over here, and I actually am the type of person, if I have too much social interaction, I have to pull back and take time to like be by myself because I don't, if I could be a nomad, I think I'd be a nomad because like I like being by myself. I like the quiet. I have to calm my brain down. I forget there's different personality tests you can take to figure it out, but mine's the type of personality I have to be by myself. So what do you all think? Do you think because you're alone and nomads that it's easier for you to cope with being alone?
I think some people are easier to cope with it, but I also think, at least for me and maybe some other people can recognize that too. It is easier to, at least most of my life, it was easier to be alone and traveling and just trying not to um, form close relationships because everybody close to me had always hurt me, and so it was easier just to not form that. And so you kind of got to look at it that way. I think some people are better suited to be alone, but even if you're alone, like truck driving, you still get social interaction when you stop places, or you might even listen to talk radio or whatever. You're still getting social interaction. Um, you still crave it, but you might not just crave it in person, social interaction, and that's totally understandable. And everybody does need alone time as well. But I think you have to. If you're spending like way too much time, like you don't even interact. Like let's say you're on YouTube, you don't even interact with people on YouTube, and yeah, at some point, I don't think that's good for you either. I think you got to have some sort of interaction with people at some point.
I have a question about this. She says, Linda Barker says, I'm embarrassed by my family members' suicidal thoughts and don't discuss it. It kind of tears me up. Are you embarrassed or hurt that they feel that way and you feel like maybe you should be able to do something but can't do something? Does that part bother you more, or is it more that you're embarrassed? Does that make sense? The question is.
Yeah, and I said like to know a little bit more about that too, like you just said. 'Cause I'm sure there's a little bit more that can go in that from how that reads.
Because I know, like, for me, it's my thoughts. Yeah, there were people that were helping those thoughts along, but my own thoughts still got me there. I could have fought back with my thoughts, but my thoughts just continued down that road. And those thoughts embarrassed me. I didn't want to think that, and I was embarrassed by the things I was thinking, and I'm still embarrassed to this day that I ever let it get that way. So it's nothing that I feel like anyone could have helped me with, I had to help myself and choose to pull out of that. I do feel like having positive people in my life probably would have helped to have a positive influences around me, but
Yeah.
I don't think anyone could have reached in and been like, yeah, you're better now. That wouldn't have worked.
And that's when you're in a setting or a family type like that, or you have that spouse or something like that that has the negativity. No matter if it's man or woman, but if you're hearing that a lot, it's really hard to pull yourself out of that because it's usually slow. It's a slow process that happens to you. Um,
Mhm.
luckily for you, you put something of value above you, and that was your children. You
Oh,
know, had you probably not had that to grasp onto, that was your grasp, that was your lifeline, I think. And so luckily that's where your mind took you, was to be in there for them and being strong for them. And I mean, that's admiring to do too. It takes
yeah.
a lot. There was some courage, and that's a battle.
And ever since I've had my children, that's been my saving grace.
Yeah,
I don't think I would be around if it wasn't for them, but I knew they were here. I needed to be here. I couldn't do that to them.
yeah. They
Uh,
needed you, and as much as you needed them. I mean, you was just able to pull through that.
Third Angela said, I went through postpartum depression with my second son. I didn't want to admit it until I did something to my son that truly scared me to my core. It was like an outer body experience.
Oh,
I have felt that too,
yeah,
and it is scary.
yeah. It definitely is. I remember we were talking to Gina one day when she was talking about, I just miss having a hug. I need a hug. And she did her hugs, and it was a big old hit. And, just think how many of us right now, you need that hug. And it's just something so simple. And I think that's where the nomadic side of life, if you're alone, do you have an embrace like that? Especially social distance, you just don't walk up places now and hug people.
Yeah.
I was going to say, as long as COVID's not going on, you just walk up to the grocer and you'd be like, hey, bagger, come here. I need a hug.
We're behind a mask, and we have the big old plastic stuff. So even when we're going in stores now, you don't shake hands like you do. You don't greet. I'm a hugger too. So when I meet someone, a friend, I'm gonna be more like go over there and give them a hug, and everybody's like 6 feet apart.
Linda R's right. It's a hug from the right person will do wonders. You know what? My dad gives me a hug, and the world is right. Everything is good again. Doesn't matter what was going on. My dad hugs me. I'm okay again.
Yeah.
But definitely. So yes, it's definitely a tough time, and I think just communicating with each other, like we're all talking and sharing stories here today, and just becoming aware.
What do you all think about pets as far as helping with anxiety, depression, those type of thoughts?
Perfect. Pets are like awesome. They
Yeah.
are. Um,
I know there's a lot of debate on whether or not therapy dogs are real. And, they say
they're real.
service dogs are real, but whether or not therapy dogs are real. And I can tell you that my dog picks up on my anxiety and all of that stuff. My dog may not be able to do certain things, but that dog can cuddle me like no tomorrow.
Yeah. And that way, I think every dog is a therapy dog because
Yes.
I say that because even Hitler loved his dog. So there's some few animals that can, especially for people that have been hurt by other people. There's something about the love that you can give an animal where you feel a little more free to do that because you don't feel like you're going to get hurt like you would with a person.
I like what Tommy Travels and Shanna are over here saying. So Tommy says, the gal that cuts my hair every couple of months is my current hug connection. Shanna says, my chiropractor is my current hug connection.
Oh,
All right.
man.
So
And
everybody needs to find them a hairdresser or a chiropractor. Maybe a Starbucks person would do the same thing. I don't know. We'll see.
I have to start a speakeasy for hugs or something.
Gina says, yes, hugs are something I miss more than anything. Just a hug from my darn cat makes me happy.
That cat, that one cat never leaves her alone. That is her therapy cat.
Yeah.
That one's like, oh, mama looks a little like she needs some loving. Right over there.
Yeah,
I think it's Jacob. Is that the big one?
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
Jacob.
And Lily has that her dog is always listened and never judged.
Janice says her dogs are wonderful huggers.
Oh, that is awesome. So I think there is a healing effect to animals, and a comforting, but we got to talk and we have to listen.
Yeah.
And reach out, uh, to people. So definitely.
Yeah, I know I said this before, but I do want to say it again. I was 30 something years old. I don't remember the exact age. I was married for 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I was in terrible situations leading up to that. At 14 and a half years is when I hit that lowest of low points, maybe just a little bit before that. But if I can hit that low point that far in, it wasn't like I was married for a year or two. I mean, it was a long marriage where I had to start everything over.
Mm-hmm.
If you can hit that low point that far in and start over from scratch, anybody can do that.
There's hope.
Anybody can do it. And I just don't ever want people to ever feel like there's no hope. There is hope. And to think,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just think that's important to understand because I didn't know that. I didn't know that in those moments, in the years leading up to that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's a long time, especially the age you were a large part of your life too. To think about, and you're right. If you can put a life back together after that, don't ever feel stuck and like you can't reverse the course you're on. You always have a chance as long as you're breathing. You always have a chance to reverse the course you're on. So, but it's gonna take it'll take work and it'll take day by day, but you can reverse it. BB3 is here because of it. I'm here because of it. There's a bunch of people in the chat, because of it. So that's my big takeaway from it is as long as you keep breathing, there's a chance to have some stuff happen and for you to be happy again.
Yeah.
There's also a freedom and a power in it afterwards. Like you got to do the work, but then you do feel a freedom and a power. And even on your dark days afterwards, when you've done all that work, you look back and you go, "Oh yeah, that was the darkest it's ever going to get, and I'm good now. Like it's not. We're not going back there." So you don't have to feel that again because you've done that work and you've come further. You don't have to go back to feeling that again. And
Right.
that freedom that it's priceless and unexplainable, really. But
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And learning that getting sad doesn't mean your whole day shot. You can be sad about something for a little bit and then it's done with.
Oh yeah, definitely. But just trying to find that thing that helps you turn it around, or that person. If there's a person in your life that just helps cheer you up sometimes, make that phone call.
Yep.
And get them on the phone and just, you don't even have to tell them you're having a bad time. Just sometimes talking to that person helps you through it. But if it's a really tough time, don't be afraid to say what's on your mind or what's bothering you, and talk about it with them. Get that communication line with somebody open that you can sit and discuss those hard topics.
Yep.
Even if it's not a close friend. I read somewhere in here with Linda talking about having a tough time until really she got into the community here and how that's helped her. And that's true. There are so many of us just through this community who've opened up some lines of communication and are being there for each other to support support each other through some of our really hardest time, whether it's through the isolation, depression, illness. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is, just be there, lend a hand, an open ear, just be there.
Yeah.
You just never know.
And this community is not only kind and loving and giving and all that, they're funny. They're funny. If you ever need a good laugh, just hang out in some of these chats because these people are funny.
Call Papa Drew for a good laugh too.
Yeah.
Seriously.
And a hug. And a hug. He'll give you a
Yeah.
hug.
Yeah, for sure.
He'll give you lots of hugs. And there are so many more of them out there who are there to just to lend an ear to as well.
I
So
was saying that earlier on my live today. I was like, man, I was not feeling too great, but I decided to do this live anyway. And y'all have had me laughing the whole live. So thank you. Like, yeah, people are so funny and caring. It's just a great community.
oh yeah, it is. It definitely is. And I just want to thank everybody for just even in the chatterbox for sharing your stories with us. I mean, you know, these are not easy stories to share, and talking from the heart and the things that we're going through. And you know, we had Jerry come in here and several who, because of some recent loss of a family member or a close friend or a classmate. Let's be there for some of them right now. Let's reach out to them, let them know that we do care, that we recognize that this might be a hard time for them, you know.
Yeah.
So, um, and like I said, a few of them in the chat, we know who they are just from sharing some of the stories. So we definitely appreciate that you felt comfortable enough to share them with all of us. We love y'all.
Yeah.
And definitely. And you too, Bob. You are just a story of success. And BB, you opened up tonight. I mean, you know,
Well, the chat and Bob helped me do that.
I know that was not easy for you to share. So definitely, it's just thanks that you did, and just hope it makes you feel a little better too. I know that we're here for you as well. Uh, you know,
But this community and Bob, honestly, Bob, you are inspiring. Like your story and the fact that you just keep chugging along, even though you ride your little scooter and you kick me off the board game constantly. You're inspiring. I still love you. Anybody doesn't know what that is, go check out Uncle Lisa's video.
yeah, the board game, because Bob, I don't know, Bob's supposed to be the one to help us, but he was setting us back.
I know, man. I know. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna have to go check it out myself because you guys told me about that, and that sounds like a very funny time.
Yeah, but you. I mean, look what all for everything you've gone through. You're there now, putting out some words and being a lending ear to other people, and you know, just on your show too. You know, you have it out there, so
Yeah.
And Bob's always looking out for everybody too. If he has an idea, he's like, "Oh, you should do this and you should do that." And he like will contact you and he'll share ideas for you that could help you along the way. And I think that's a really cool quality to have because other people kind of just like, "Oh, they're too busy with their own thing," you know. Bob's always like, "Hey," so I really appreciate it. I think
Well, I like doing it, and I like because I want everybody to have that. You know, there's so much information out there, and if I can come across something that might help one of you guys, I'd rather share it with you. Like it's easier for me to do that, and then you know who knows what's going to happen to you through doing that, and that makes me happy too, just to see all you guys successful. I was telling a lady I just had on before I talked to you guys. My whole thing about doing this is I want everybody to achieve the dream that they can, so that more people can see it's possible. More people see it's possible. More happy people there are. More happy people are. Less people are gonna, feel like they have no other choice but to end their life. The way I look at it.
And I think that is inspiring and a way that a lot of us should view things, and I think most of us in this community do. It's beautiful. Um, it's all about helping others, and then in the end, you end up lifted too,
Mm-hmm.
spirits and all.
Yep, for sure.
Definitely.
Hello Artitude said it's awesome to see the progression of where Bob started out and where he is now. I would agree. And that's something Hippie says a lot too.
It's been quite a thing. If you scroll all the way back, you'll see my shaky cell phone vertical black line picture, just like a lot of people have their first one, and just what it's turned into has been kind of fun to watch being on this side of it. So I can't imagine on your side, because for me it keeps happening all the time, and you guys get a little glimpse here, a little glimpse there, and so it would be kind of cool to be able to see it from your guys' eyes, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. So we have about 4 minutes till the end of the show, and we have a couple more.
Does Bob have anything coming up? He wants. Oh, Nomadic Hippie said, "I remember Bob's old shaky camera."
Yeah. Hippie and Blue Wave were there, just as one person in the chat room, and when there wasn't anybody else there. So I appreciate Hippie being there this whole time, and it's cool. It's cool to now be at a point I'm monetized, and because when I started out, I think Hippie was the only one monetized when I started out in the community, because I don't even think Blue Wave was yet. So it was cool. It's cool to be there now, and just to talk to Hippie all the time. When I used to just watch him on YouTube, before I even started, I was just watching his videos. So it's been cool.
Do you have anything coming up?
There's interviews every day. I can't remember the names of them all. But the lady tomorrow will be she was a TEDx speaker, and she speaks on domestic violence and all those kind of issues, and helps with all that kind of stuff. So if you guys want to come tomorrow, the thumbnail's up there. Hit the reminder, and come and talk to her tomorrow. But it's cool to talk to these people. And like I said, I'd like to tell you all the names coming up, but if I get too far ahead, I'll forget who I'm talking to that day.
Like I said earlier, I got to take notes. Otherwise, I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Right, I know. All right.
Trying to get his thumbnail here.
Yep, we're down to the last minute, so I'm going to go ahead and Bob, thanks for joining us.
Yep, thank you.
And just for everybody to know that suicide is not inevitable for everyone, and by starting a conversation, providing support, and directing help to those who need it, we can prevent suicide and save lives. So if you're thinking about suicide, or you're worried about a friend or loved one, or someone who needs emotional support, no matter what problems you're dealing with, please reach out to that little number that's going across here, the Suicide Prevention Hotline. And also reach out to somebody in the community, a family member, a friend. Just do that and reach out to somebody. So, with that, just also hug somebody today too. If you can, just give them a hug. So, but with that, I am Theresa with Meant to Be RVing, and we are wishing you peace, happiness, and a good life.
Beyond Beauty 3, wishing you much kindness and much love.
Ooh, can I do mine?
Yeah.
All right. I'm Bob, and stop waiting for life to happen and make life happen.
Woo! Yes, I'm for that.
Hello, everybody.
Thanks, guys.